Oh, after a really rough week, the last thing I wanted to do was come back to an album that I was just really excited for, probably my most anticipated album of the year, and just not like... Who am I kidding? I'm totally kidding! Come on, stop! Don't hit that dislike button. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It is time for my first on-camera review that I have done in a while. It feels good to be back. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I'll keep it short, but basically I landed myself in the ER due to a very bad stomach bug. But I'm back on my feet. I'm about to go see Green Day, my favorite band, for the first time live this weekend. Things are good, and today we're talking about Creeper's debut album, Eternity in Your Arms. This was announced last fall. I immediately pre-ordered it because I fell in love with these guys after a viewer recommended them to me. I checked out the Stranger EP, was fascinated by it, went back, checked out the Callous Heart and their self-titled EP, and I really saw a progression from EP to EP. And I really feel like the Callous Heart is where they found their footing, what they wanted to do, and then they perfected that sound on the Stranger EP. I actually picked up a vinyl copy of that for myself last year. They're signed to Roadrunner Records, kind of a horror punk in terms of their visual type band, meets punk rock of, I don't know, AFI, Alkaline Trio. They have a lot of outside influences, and I feel like most of the time they ride the line perfectly between finding their own sound and their niche and connecting with their audience through their other influences. And on this debut album, I'm really excited to say that with a lot of listens to it, maybe it doesn't hit you right at first, but the more you sink into the atmosphere of just what Creeper is in general, the more you will love this project. Now, Creeper are one of these bands that, like I said, play off of their visuals, and I love that. They talk about this missing man, James Scythe. If you've been following the band for a long time, you know exactly what's going on. You see the imagery, the patches that they wear on their jackets, what appears on the EP covers, like The Stranger. That's a character in and of itself. And if you watch their music videos, like Black Rain, Hiding with Boys, and Suzanne, the 3 singles that dropped preceding this album's release, then you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about with this band's killer aesthetic game. Seriously, they're on point. They give it their all. In fact, I would say that they try harder than some of these bigger bands. Yeah, you have to in order to make a name for yourself. But seriously, these smaller bands have to take note. They're doing different things. They aren't sounding like all of the other wave of new bands that are coming out in this day and age. And they have a mystery about them. And people like that. People like solving puzzles still, including myself. That's what lured me to this band in the first place. Because I was like, 1, what do they sound like? 2, what exactly is their game here? And 3, whenever they started teasing a new record, I found myself quite connected to what was going on their Instagram feed. Alright, enough about the imagery and visuals of this band. You want to hear about the music? What do I think about Eternity in Your Arms? Well, whenever I first played the album, I know a lot of you were probably saying, John, you tweeted out that it wasn't hitting you as much as you wanted it to. That was my first play of the record, and I was very tired. I've had a very crazy week, and whenever you play the album at, like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night and you're already exhausted, you're probably not exactly going to give it the most attention that you need to in order to really review it, analyze it, take in the lyrical content and the music. And whenever I started playing it again the next day, trust me, that's when it started working. And I started realizing, John, what the hell were you thinking, man? Why would you start it last night? Will Gould and Hannah Greenwood are great vocalists, and Will Gould is the lead vocalist of this band. But seriously, this is one of those moments where I feel like if he, for whatever reason, were to leave the band, I feel like Hannah is stepping into a point where she could carry the vocals. I seriously wouldn't be worried if he stepped down. Not that I would ever want him to, but I'm just saying it wouldn't be one of those 3 Days Grace or some other band where they lose the lead vocalist type situation and the band just goes to shit. Gould and guitarist Ian Miles have been playing music together for years. In fact, they met in their last band and they were like, hey, let's do another project because we're feeling a little bit burned out on music right now and we're wondering if anything's ever gonna catch, anything's ever gonna take a hold. And finally, Creeper was their saving grace. This is one of those moments that comes through as something elegant because you know that these guys know the punk scene, the DIY scene, and they are doing everything on such an extravagant and theatrical scale that you cannot help but love it. The enthusiasm that these songs breed is just incredible. I love how they jump off the page. Let's take, for example, some of the first tracks that really truly stood out to me, like Poison Pins. That one is a thrashing punk anthem that just stomps you with its energy. The guitars, the fierce vocals on it, and the way that they fire off these lyrics is incredible. And Room 309 is another one that instantly connected with me because of that harder punk vibe. And I love how it has kind of a chill outro on it, and then it fades perfectly into the Hannah Greenwood-led track where she does all of the lead vocals. Crickets. She actually plays the violin on it, and you hear those crickets transitioning as like the outro music at the very end of Room 309, and that slower outro where he's singing and questioning. They're talking about God, if he really truly exists, then maybe why does this happen? And then it fades into another kind of introspective track where they're questioning once again crickets. And that one is very much a heartbreaking type tune. It's one that you listen to it and you can feel the pain. You can almost hear the cracks and the screeches in her voice as she wants to let out even more emotion than she can with her vocals. Now, remember how I was talking about the band Stranger EP? That's how I found them, and that's why I loved them in the first place, thanks to a viewer that sent them to me. Well, of course, you know, being a Spotify user, I saved the songs, I thought at least, to my Spotify. Well, Spotify decided to save them all except for Misery. I didn't have that one in my Spotify playlist for a year. I thought I had been listening to the entire EP, but this song, other than a couple of times right whenever I gave it an initial listen, it just faded into oblivion. So it was like I got a brand new track, and I have to say, it feels like stepping outside on a brand new day and just listening to a fresh track for the first time. I had totally forgotten about it, and its presence is so welcomed here. I like that they break up the monotony here, not that it really gets that monotonous throughout the record, but obviously they have these huge choruses, big stomping anthems, roaring hooks, and they have kind of a slow burn effect sometimes leading up to them, like Suzanne, for example, which I think it's very, very effective on moments like that. The very over-the-top theatric Black Rain, which is probably one of the best songs, if not the best song that I've heard all year long. But Misery is one of those that just plays it down to an acoustic guitar, a rhythm, and heartache. You see Will Gould pouring his soul into this, and it is crushing, it is gut-wrenching, and whenever I listen to this song, I could nearly tear up at the emotion that I feel, just the impact that he has whenever he sings about this ex-girlfriend, this ex-lover that he has, thinking about the things that they used to do. And then as he builds up in the pre-chorus, I'm your chipped nail paint, and it slowly builds and builds as he just cries and exclaims on this tune. You have to hear this one. It's such an important part of this record that really changes the direction and the pacing. Now, to sidestep for just a second, I could see some criticisms like I was just talking about with those big lead-ups to the choruses, the kind of sing-along and themic type tunes, and while I personally don't feel like they are a cop-out and I really do enjoy them, I could see that being a criticism and a problem for some. But in terms of actual criticisms that I have for this record, there are a couple of moments where I do feel like they kind of get suffocated by their influences. And the biggest kind of, I don't know, I don't want to point a total finger at it, but the biggest crime committer here I could point at would be track number 9, Darling. And I do feel like that one is just a straight up Alkaline Trio nod. And I probably feel like they went for that. Maybe they wanted that sound. But the song doesn't stand out to me because I like Alkaline Trio, I like Creeper a whole lot, and whenever you merge those two, it just feels like Creeper doing a cover of Alkaline Trio that maybe shouldn't be on a studio album. Sadly, the end of Eternity in Your Arms is its weakest element, and right after that track that I was just talking about, Drowning in Its Influences, comes Winona Forever. I don't know if that's also a nod like Fall Out Boy did with She's My Winona off of their excellent record Folie à Deux. I don't know if it's maybe a possible nod to Winona Ryder, the popular actress who had a lot of movies during the 90s. The lyrical content here is solid enough, and I do like the musicality of it. The guitars on this track, supercharged, love the bass line and the drumming. I have to commend not only on this track, but really all throughout. I really feel like their drummer Dan Bratton just absolutely kills it with some of these drum rhythms here. They pound it into you with not just a punk energy, but they get a little bit off beat, a little bit off kilter, and throw in some nice changes. So I have to compliment that, not only on this track that I don't care for quite as much, but really all throughout. Some of these moments like Black Rain, Suzanne, Room 309 are driven by drums, and I think that is fantastic. Even though the instrumental on Winona Forever does thrive, I feel like that and then fading into the final cut off of this album, which is definitely a bit cheesy for me. I Choose to Live. I understand that it's very personal, definitely probably for Gould and Miles who wrote it together, but I don't feel like it translates that well. It just comes off as kind of a sappy closer, and I feel like Creeper are one of those bands that could finish on such a high note instead of just doing the stereotypical, let's close it out on a slower type track and reflect a little bit more. I feel like they could have taken it out on a more high octane moment. Not that I totally dismiss this track or dislike it by any means, I don't connect with it because it doesn't feel as great of some of these other things that they've concocted. So to sum up everything that I've said in my review today, great punk energy, a new fresh style for music. I love that they're mixing things up. They've got a great batch of songs here that really just has an energy about it. Everything from the nice punk influence Down Below, which also definitely could flow into more alternative and rock radio these days. I feel like that could definitely maybe be the fourth single off of this record, and I'm enjoying it a whole lot. From obviously the theatric Black Rain to even the slower moments like the Hannah-led Crickets. I'm loving the vibe and the changes that this album goes through. Eternity in Your Arms is not quite perfect by any means, but it's definitely close to meeting the super high expectations that I had for it. I know a lot of people were really looking forward to this one. Creeper are basically being lauded as like the saviors of modern rock music at this point by so many publications, and I can totally see why. For me personally, I have to give this a very high recommendation. I think it's going to have a great replay factor. I could see myself listening through this all summer, spring, maybe even to the fall and winter. Who knows how long I'll be playing this for, but I do hope I get to see them live very soon. I am going to give their new debut album, Eternity in Your Arms, a strong 4.5 out of 5. That's it for the Creeper review, guys. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. Hit the like button while you're here, and let me know other albums that you would like to see me tackle. I am dialing back a bit on the album reviews because I want to focus on other content like my series Rank that I just lost. I've got other bigger videos that I want to concentrate on, and it would really mean the world to me if you could check out my Patreon and consider donating to me on a monthly basis so that I could do YouTube full time and implement these new ideas and not just have to focus on a certain type of content. I could make a little bit more varied and stuff that maybe you guys will love even more. So if you would like to see more, check out my Patreon feed. I've got everything up over there, including a brand new podcast series that I've relaunched. It's all at the top link in the description, or in just a second, you can click it on screen whenever we cut to the outro card. Subscribe if you haven't already, because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, it's over here in the corner. A video I did about bands that you need to check out, smaller bands, click right below me here, or a recent album review that I do think you guys will enjoy. You can click that other annotation on screen. All of my social media linked in the description, merch available, second link in the description down below. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.